Hey everyone, my name is Josh and welcome back to your fourth stimulus package and news update. We have a lot of news to get into in today's video, but first, if you would like to receive one free stock from Robinhood just by opening an account, make sure to claim it by clicking my link, which you will find in the description box below. Okay, so just real quickly, last night the White House launched their new website, covidtest.gov, where you will be able to order a free at-home COVID test, which should ship within 7 to 12 days. For each order, you will receive 4 test kits, and again, this is all completely free, so no more waiting hours in line to get tested. Also, President Biden recently announced that he will be making 400 million N95 masks available to all Americans for free as well. Instead of ordering these online though, instead you can pick them up at thousands of pharmacies and community health centers. These masks are expected to be available for pickup at some point in early February. So curious to hear all of your thoughts. Do you believe sending out free test kits and masks is a good idea, or do you believe it's not all that worthwhile? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Okay, so as far as today goes, at 6:30 p.m. tonight, the Senate will be voting on the Democrats' bill to federalize all election laws. Being that 60 votes are needed in order for it to pass, and they don't have any Republican support, this vote is likely to fail. After it fails, we can expect the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to then attempt to gut the filibuster. For this to work, they would need just 50 votes, something at the moment that he doesn't have either. This is because both Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin oppose ridding the filibuster, a measure that they both believe is important to keep in the Senate. Just recently, notable sports figures from West Virginia such as Nick Saban and Jerry West wrote a letter to Manchin calling on him to pass the voting rights laws at any cost. Despite that letter, Manchin, of course, doesn't really care and said that he will not get rid of the filibuster, even if that would help pass this piece of legislation dealing with voting rights. Fortunately for Manchin, the residents of West Virginia are the ones re-electing him, not millionaire football coaches like Nick Saban. At a meeting last night, it was reported that Joe Manchin also stood his ground on the filibuster, saying that rules changes should not be made. And because of Manchin's refusal to get rid of the filibuster, many Democrats are now threatening him by saying that they'll help another Democrat in his state beat him in the next election. And these same Democrats are also saying the exact same thing about Kyrsten Sinema in Arizona. Of course, would one of the reddest states in the country, where Donald Trump took 69% of the vote over Joe Biden, really prefer someone like Bernie Sanders over Joe Manchin? It's highly doubtful. And if Joe Manchin did get beat up by someone further on the left, all that would likely happen to that person is that person getting defeated by the Republican and cause Democrats to lose another seat in the Senate. So of course, Manchin said he would welcome a primary challenge, and it's not really a cause of concern for him. Manchin also suggested recently that Democrats don't have their priorities straight. Manchin said that most people are worried about inflation and COVID right now, and that voting rights doesn't come anywhere close to the concerns for most Americans. And myself personally, I have to say, he has a good point there. For me personally, the economy, inflation, and making sure that every American is in a better place with food on the table that they don't have to pay more and more for each and every month are the biggest concerns. So Manchin definitely has a point. Of course, other Democrats disagree with that notion, as they feel many Americans are being restricted from voting despite no current laws actually preventing anyone from voting. Here is Senator Warnock saying that Republicans cannot honor Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy if they also oppose these voting rights laws.
This is a moral moment in America. I was at my church yesterday, the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where we held our annual service in memory of Dr. King. And I can tell you that in Georgia and all across our country, politicians did yesterday what they do every year. They lined up and they offered platitudes and praises to Martin Luther King Jr. On MLK weekend, everybody loves Martin Luther King Jr. And I have to sometimes sit there and wonder who they're talking about. And it is because as we have pushed forward this debate on voting rights, I've been hearing arguments against this legislation, and those arguments have sounded uncannily familiar to me as a student of the civil rights movement, and I was asking myself why. And then I realized that as Dr. King and others were pushing forward civil rights and voting rights, people didn't necessarily stand up and say, no, we don't believe black people should vote. What did? They pushed forward states' rights arguments. And these are the kinds of arguments that I've been hearing in this chamber in 2022. Let us be very clear. The legislation that we are proposing provides a baseline of standards that ensures that every eligible American can vote. The states still administer their elections. And as the pastor of Ebenezer Church, where Martin Luther King Jr. preached, I take great umbrage with members of this body who are arguing that somehow this is a federal takeover. They are marshaling old states' rights arguments, the same arguments that Faubus used, Governor Faubus, in response to Brown versus Board of Education. The same arguments used by Richard B. Russell of Georgia when he wanted to stand in the way of civil rights. The same arguments used by Strom Thurmond when he had the largest filibuster in the history of the Senate arguing against voting rights. What did he argue? He argued for states' rights. And that's what we've been hearing in recent days. And so let the message go out. You cannot remember Martin Luther King Jr. and dismember his legacy at the same time. You can argue whatever side you want, but you do not get to argue both sides. You do not get to offer praises and plaudits, praises and platitudes in memory of Dr. King, and marshal the same kinds of states' rights arguments that were used against the civil rights movement and against Martin Luther King Jr. And so this is a moral moment. And you have to decide. Now, we're one nation. E pluribus unum, out of many one. And that's what voting rights ensures, that people from various backgrounds get to speak. And at the end of the day, the people have their say. And right in Georgia right now, they're trying to get rid of ballot drop boxes in the middle of a pandemic. Why? Who does that serve? Who are they trying to help? Come on, give me a break. Who are they trying to help by proposing that they get rid of drop boxes in the middle of a pandemic? They're trying to take over the Fulton County Board of Elections. We know what they're up to. And everywhere I go in Georgia, my constituents are saying, stand up for voting rights, stand up for the voices of the people. The democracy belongs to them and not the politicians. And that's what I intend to do. And that's what we intend to do.
At 4 p.m. today, President Joe Biden will hold a solo press conference where it is expected he'll talk about the successes of his administration so far. With a border crisis, rising COVID cases, rising inflation, and empty shelves at the grocery store, understandably, Americans are growing more and more frustrated by the day. It's unknown whether or not he plans on discussing the Build Back Better bill, one piece of legislation that was a centerpiece of discussions in Washington for several months, but has since completely fell off. Some Democrats, such as Elizabeth Warren, have recently suggested that they would be open to breaking up the bill in order to pass some parts of it through.
Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin are also making it difficult for the Build Back Better plan.
Yep.
So how do you move past this roadblock? I know you all are very optimistic and say you can't give up hope, but after a while, when does reality set in and say we need to go in a different direction?
Okay, so look. Let's do a little reality. Okay. Where were we a year ago today? Mm-hmm. We were still mopping up blood and sweeping up glass in the United States Capitol. We had an armed insurrection.
Yes.
Remember, people couldn't even get in line to try to get vaccines. We have now dealt with that. Vaccines are available everywhere. Boosters are available everywhere. By the way, get your vaccine and booster if you haven't. They work. But we also passed a rescue package. It's why schools are open. It's why our economy that everyone predicted was going to take a nosedive didn't. In fact, in President Biden's first year, More new jobs have been created than any president in history. So we've gotten our act together to do some things.
That's not the headline. That's not the headline. But can we go back to the Build Back Better bill for just a second? Would it be better to break it up at this point so that you get something accomplished?
Look, I don't want to negotiate against myself here because, of course, we love all the parts to it. But we need to get something accomplished.
Yeah.
And
child
we
tax
need
credit,
to get
perhaps?
everybody on absolutely the child tax
peel that
credit.
off?
And universal child care. We need to get those accomplished. We need to get those through.
Right, but peel them off to pass them individually so they
Pass
can get
them.
through.
That's right. But remember, we're back to the filibuster problem.
But you're open to breaking it up, though.
I'm open to whatever's going to get us across the finish line, knowing we're not going to get one single Republican to lower the price of prescription drugs, not one to give us universal child care, not one who's going to say that these corporations that make billions in profits are going to not get away any longer with paying zero in taxes. We've got all those in Build Back Better. We just need to get what we can across the finish line.
So Warren suggests here, perhaps we could pass through just the child tax credit portion, or maybe universal child care. For Democrats, you would think that passing something would certainly be better than nothing at all. At the end of the day, though, it's going to be completely up to Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and what they believe can be afforded at this time. So once again, I'd love to hear all of your thoughts below. Do you believe that Build Back Better should be broken up so they can at least pass parts of it, or do you believe they shouldn't pass any of it at all? Let me know what your thoughts are, once again, in the comment section below. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Again, if you would like to receive one free stock from Robinhood just for opening an account, make sure to claim it by clicking my link, which you will find in the description box below. So once again, I do hope that everyone has a great and safe rest of their day. And as usual, I'll see you in the next video.